The quantum arrays aboard the UES Hyperion hummed their familiar song as Captain Marcus Rhodes stood at the observation deck, watching the unfamiliar stars of the Arcturus sector drift by. Humanity had spent centuries reaching for the stars, but nothing had prepared them for what awaited in the vast unknown. Captain, Lieutenant Rajesh Kumar's voice crackled through the ship's comm system. We're detecting unusual gravitational distortions at coordinates 227 Mark 44. Rhodes straightened his uniform, a habit from his 20 years of service. Analysis. Sir, the patterns don't match anything in our database. They're organized, deliberate. The discovery should have been humanity's greatest moment. Instead, it became the catalyst for their greatest trial. Within minutes, the void before them twisted, reality itself seeming to part like a curtain. Through this cosmic tear emerged a vessel that dwarfed the Hyperion, its surface gleaming with an otherworldly metal that seemed to drink in the starlight. All stations battle ready, Rhodes commanded, his voice steady despite the tension coiling in his chest. But keep weapons powered down, we're here to make friends, not start a war. The alien vessel's response came not in weapons fire, but in a transmission that automatically translated itself across all their systems. The voice that filled the bridge was unlike anything human ears had encountered, musical and mechanical all at once. You have entered the domain of the Nexari Dominion. We are the shepherds of order, the architects of peace through unity. Your species will be evaluated for integration. Rhodes felt a chill run down his spine. There was something in that voice, not malice, but something perhaps more dangerous, absolute certainty. This is Captain Marcus Rhodes of the United Earth ship Hyperion. We come in peace and seek diplomatic dialogue. The response was immediate. Peace exists only through submission to the Dominion. Resistance leads to extinction. You have 24 Earth hours to signal your surrender. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Rhodes turned to his first officer, Commander Diana Peng, whose expression mirrored his own concern. Send everything we have back to Earth Command, Rhodes ordered. And get me Dr. Nasir from Xenobiology. I want to know everything about their ship's construction. The next 20 hours became a blur of activity. While the Hyperion maintained its position, the crew worked tirelessly to analyze every aspect of the Nexari vessel. Dr. Aisha Nasir's findings were both fascinating and terrifying. Their ship, she explained during the emergency briefing, it's not just advanced, it's evolutionary. The metal appears to be some form of living alloy that adapts and learns. Traditional weapons would be useless against it. Rhodes absorbed this information, his mind already racing through possibilities. The Nexari's ultimatum left no room for negotiation, but humanity had never been good at accepting no-win scenarios. As the deadline approached, Earth Command's response arrived. Stand firm, humanity bows to no one. When the 24 hours expired, the Nexari ship began to move. But Rhodes and his crew were ready. They had spent those precious hours preparing not for battle, but for something the Nexari would never expect. Deploy the quantum resonators, Rhodes commanded. Dr. Nasir's analysis had revealed something crucial. The living metal of the Nexari ship maintained its cohesion through quantum-level communications. The resonators, normally used for deep space scanning, had been modified to create interference patterns. The effect was immediate. The massive Nexari vessel shuddered, its perfect surface rippling like water. They hadn't damaged it, they had confused it, disrupting the neural-like network that made it so formidable. Sir, Kumar called out, they're powering up weapons. Execute maneuver Theta, Rhodes ordered calmly. The Hyperion moved in a pattern that seemed random, but was carefully calculated to maintain maximum disruption of the Nexari ship's quantum field. The alien vessel fired, but its legendary precision was gone. The shots went wide, the living metal struggling to adapt to the quantum interference. Rhodes had turned the ship's greatest strength into a weakness. Send the message, he commanded. Through the same channels the Nexari had used, they transmitted their response. The children of Earth do not submit. We evolve. We adapt. We overcome. This is your only warning, leave our space, or learn why humanity has survived every challenge our harsh world has thrown at us. The Nexari ship retreated, slipping back through its spatial tier. But Rhodes knew this was just the beginning. Humanity had won its first encounter not through superior firepower, but through innovation and understanding. As the Hyperion set course for Earth, Rhodes stared out at the stars once more. Send a priority message to Earth Command, he told Commander Peng. Tell them to prepare. The shepherds of order won't take this lesson lying down. Humanity had made its choice. They would not submit. They would not be shepherded. And in the years to come, the galaxy would learn why Earth's children had not only survived on their harsh cradle world but had thrived. The war for humanity's independence was about to begin. 3 months after the Hyperion incident, Earth had transformed. The looming threat of the Nexari Dominion had united humanity in ways no earthly crisis ever could. Deep beneath the Himalayas, in a facility known as the Prometheus Complex, Dr. Valerie Zhang stood before a holographic display of what could be humanity's salvation. The Nexari's quantum-integrated ships are both their greatest strength and their greatest vulnerability, she explained to the assembled military leadership. Their technology is generations ahead of ours, but it follows rigid patterns we can exploit. General Marcus Way, head of Earth's newly formed defense coalition, studied the complex equations floating before him. You're proposing we turn space itself against them. Exactly, Valerie replied, her eyes bright with the fever of discovery. We can't match their technology, but we can change the rules of engagement. The quantum resonators on the Hyperion showed us the way. Now we're taking it further. The project was called Operation Labyrinth, a revolutionary defense system that would protect Earth and its colonies by creating unpredictable quantum fluctuations in space. The Nexari's highly ordered systems would find themselves fighting not just human ships, but reality itself. But time was running out. Long-range sensors had detected a massive Nexari fleet assembling at the edge of human space. Leading the project's engineering team was Jun Wang, whose expertise in theoretical physics had helped turn Valerie's concepts into reality. The grid is online, Jun announced, monitoring the first test of the system. Quantum field generators are functioning at 97% efficiency. Valerie watched as the test drone, built with salvaged Nexari technology, attempted to navigate through the protected space. Its movements became erratic, its quantum-based systems struggling to maintain coherence. The Nexari build their ships to be perfect, Valerie explained to the observing officials. But perfection becomes a weakness when faced with controlled chaos. Their systems can't adapt fast enough to our induced quantum irregularities. A junior officer burst into the control room. Multiple spatial ruptures detected, the Nexari fleet has begun its advance. General Wei immediately activated the command network. All defense forces to battle stations. Dr. Zhang, is the labyrinth system ready? It's now or never, she replied, her fingers flying over the control interface. Activating the grid. Across the solar system, hundreds of quantum field generators sprang to life. The very fabric of space around Earth and its major colonies began to shift and ripple in carefully controlled patterns. The Nexari fleet, nearly 1,000 ships strong, emerged from their spatial tiers to find themselves in a very different environment than their scans had shown. The lead ship's perfect formations began to waver. Their living metal hulls, dependent on quantum-level communication, struggled to maintain cohesion. Several smaller vessels simply vanished, their ultra-precise spatial drives unable to cope with the chaotic quantum environment. They're adapting, Jun warned, watching the sensor feeds. The larger ships are generating some kind of stabilizing field. Valerie had expected this. The Nexari weren't just powerful, they were intelligent. But humanity had planned for this too. Initiate Phase 2, she ordered. Hidden throughout the solar system, automated defense platforms activated. Instead of traditional weapons, they began broadcasting quantum signals that interfered with the Nexari's stabilizing attempts. It was like trying to solve a puzzle while someone kept changing the pieces. The Nexari fleet's response was devastating but unfocused. Their legendary precision weapons missed more often than they hit, and their attempts to coordinate were hampered by the quantum interference. Earth's smaller, more conventional ships darted through the chaos, their human crews adapting instinctively to the changing conditions. Message from the Nexari flagship, an officer announced. They're requesting communication. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a being that seemed to be made of the same living metal as their ships. Its voice held none of the previous certainty. Your defense is impossible. Quantum fields cannot be manipulated with such precision. Impossible is what humans do best, General Wei replied. You offered us submission or extinction. We chose option 3, innovation. The battle raged for 3 more days. The Nexari tried every tactic in their vast strategic database, but against the controlled chaos of Operation Labyrinth, their perfect systems proved increasingly ineffective. Finally, their fleet retreated, leaving behind dozens of disabled ships for Earth to study. In the aftermath, as the quantum grid was powered down, Valerie stood with Jun in the observation dome, watching the stars return to their normal patterns. "They'll be back," Jun said quietly, "with new adaptations." "Of course they will," Valerie replied with a smile. "And we'll be ready with new impossibilities. The Nexari think in straight lines, we think in spirals. That's humanity's real strength." The victory had cost Earth dearly in resources and lives, but it had proved something vital. Humanity could stand against the galaxy's most advanced civilization, not through superior technology or overwhelming force, but through their unique ability to embrace chaos and turn it into advantage. As news of the victory spread through human space, research facilities around the solar system began working on new applications of quantum theory. The Nexari had awakened humanity's greatest weapon, its boundless creativity in the face of challenge. The war was far from over, but Earth had shown the galaxy that the children of Sol would never be easily conquered. The next move belonged to the Nexari, and humanity would be ready with yet another impossible solution. The Nexari Empire's answer to Operation Labyrinth came 6 months later. They bypassed Earth's quantum defense grid entirely, striking instead at humanity's outer colonies. Their new strategy was simple but effective: isolate and conquer. But they hadn't counted on Commander James Akanjo and the 15th Deep Space Rangers. Operating from the stealth carrier Shadow Step, Akanjo's forces had spent those 6 months studying Nexari patrol patterns. While Earth's main fleet protected the core systems, the Rangers prepared for a different kind of war. "They think we'll fight like they do," Akanjo told his assembled officers in the Shadow Step's tactical room. "Large fleets, direct confrontation, instead will be ghosts." Lieutenant Kira Yoshida, his tactical officer, displayed the intelligence they'd gathered. The Nexari rely on quantum communications for everything: ship coordination, weapons targeting, even their artificial gravity. But their new shielding makes our quantum disruption less effective. "Then we'll hit them where they aren't looking," Akanjo replied. "Operation Echo begins now." The Rangers' first strike came at Proxima Beta, a mining colony the Nexari had occupied. Instead of attacking the Nexari ships directly, they targeted the quantum resonance beacons the aliens used for faster-than-light navigation. The Nexari, unable to safely enter or exit FTL travel in the sector, found their supply lines suddenly stretched thin. But this was just the beginning. The Rangers had learned from studying Earth's indigenous warfare history, particularly the art of asymmetric combat. They never engaged the Nexari in direct battles. Instead, they struck at infrastructure, disappeared into asteroid fields, and used the vast emptiness of space to their advantage. Chief Engineer Miguel Rodriguez had modified their ship's engines to mimic the quantum signatures of space debris. "The Nexari are looking for human energy signatures," he explained during a mission briefing. "They never expect us to hide in plain sight." The strategy proved devastatingly effective. The Shadow Step squadrons would appear from seemingly empty space, strike critical targets, and vanish before the Nexari could mount an organized response. Each successful operation provided more captured technology for Earth scientists to study. The turning point came during the Battle of the Helios Corridor. The Nexari had established a major supply route through the region, protected by their most advanced quantum detection grid. They believed it impenetrable. "They've adapted to our previous tactics," Kira reported, studying the sensor data. "The entire corridor is lined with quantum sensors that can detect even the slightest anomaly." Akanjo smiled. "Then we'll give them more anomalies than they can handle." The Rangers deployed thousands of miniature quantum pulse emitters throughout the corridor, each programmed to activate randomly. When the system went live, the Nexari's detection grid was overwhelmed with false positives. In the ensuing chaos, the Rangers struck with precision. But the true genius of the operation wasn't in its execution, it was in its aftermath. The Nexari, faced with the constant threat of invisible attackers, began to doubt their own superior technology. Their ships started traveling in larger groups, consuming more resources and leaving other sectors vulnerable. "Psychological warfare," Akanjo explained to his crew after another successful mission. "We're not just fighting their ships, we're fighting their certainty." Every time we prove their perfect systems can be beaten, we crack their foundation a little more. The Rangers' success inspired similar units throughout human space. The Nexari found themselves facing not one enemy, but hundreds of independent groups, each using different tactics. Their attempts to adapt to one strategy left them vulnerable to others. In their command centers, Nexari strategists struggled to understand how their superior forces could be so consistently outmaneuvered by technically inferior opponents. Their rigid military doctrine, evolved over millennia of victories, proved inadequate against humanity's fluid, ever-changing tactics. Back on the Shadow Steppe, after a particularly daring raid that left 3 Nexari battlecruisers crippled, Lieutenant Yoshida found Commander Akanjo in the observation deck. "Sir," she said, "intelligence reports the Nexari are pulling back from several occupied systems. They're consolidating their forces." "They're learning," Akanjo replied, watching the distant stars. "But so are we. Every technology has its limits, every strategy its weakness. The Nexari's greatest flaw isn't in their ships or their weapons, it's in their inability to understand that perfection isn't always the answer." The Rangers' campaigns had proven something crucial. Humanity's greatest weapon wasn't its technology or even its determination. It was adaptability. While the Nexari sought to perfect their existing strategies, humans continuously evolved new ones. As the Shadow Steppe prepared for its next mission, a message arrived from Earth Command. Dr. Zhang's team had made a breakthrough in quantum physics that would change the nature of the war entirely. The Rangers would have a crucial role to play in what was to come. Commander Akanjo gathered his crew once more. "The Nexari thought they could break us by targeting our colonies. Instead, they taught us how to fight back from the shadows. Now it's time to show them what humanity can really do when we combine our strengths." The war was entering a new phase, and the lessons learned by the 15th Deep Space Rangers would prove instrumental in what was to come. The Nexari were about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one you can't see coming. Deep within the Prometheus complex, Chief Engineer Priya Patel stood before a holographic representation of what could either be humanity's salvation or its most ambitious folly. The Horizon Protocol wasn't just a weapon or a defense system. It was a fundamental reimagining of reality itself. "Every test confirms it," she announced to the assembled leaders of Earth's war effort. "We can do more than just disrupt Nexari quantum systems. We can rewrite the rules they operate on." Dr. Zhang's breakthrough had opened the door, but it was Priya's engineering genius that had turned theory into reality. The Horizon Protocol would allow human ships to generate localized fields where the laws of quantum mechanics operated differently. "The Nexari's greatest advantage is their quantum-integrated technology," Priya explained. "But what if we could make that technology operate in a universe where quantum mechanics works differently? Their ships wouldn't just malfunction, they'd become impossible." Admiral Jackson Chen, recently appointed commander of Earth's combined fleet, studied the simulation data. "The power requirements must be enormous." "They are," Priya confirmed. "That's why we need the Rangers. Commander Akanjo's stealth technology is crucial for deploying the quantum field generators." The plan was audacious. While the Rangers would plant field generators throughout Nexari space, Earth's main fleet would launch an offensive that seemed reckless, a direct assault on the Nexari's primary shipyard at Vega Prime. The operation began 3 weeks later. The Nexari detected Earth's fleet approaching and deployed their forces exactly as expected. What they couldn't detect were the Shadow Steppe and its sister ships, moving silently through their defenses, placing Horizon generators at precise coordinates. Aboard the flagship Challenger, Admiral Chen watched the tactical display. "All Rangers teams report deployment complete. Initiate Horizon Protocol on my mark." Priya, monitoring the system from Earth, held her breath. This would either be humanity's greatest achievement or its most spectacular failure. Mark. The generators activated simultaneously. There was no visible effect, no dramatic explosion. Instead, space itself seemed to hiccup. In an instant, the laws of quantum physics in the target area shifted slightly sideways. The effect on the Nexari fleet was immediate and catastrophic. Their living metal ships, dependent on quantum-level communication, found themselves trying to operate in a universe where those communications worked differently. Complex systems failed, weapons wouldn't fire, navigation became impossible. Some ships simply shut down. Others began to move in unpredictable patterns as their quantum cores tried to adapt to laws of physics that no longer made sense to them. The mighty Nexari armada, pride of their civilization, was reduced to drifting hulks. But the Nexari weren't finished. From their shipyard emerged something new: vessels that seemed to be made of pure energy rather than living metal. They had anticipated humanity might find a way to counter their quantum technology and had prepared an alternative. Energy signatures off the scale, reported Lieutenant Sophia Raman from her tactical station. They're using some kind of plasma-based technology. Our quantum interference isn't affecting them. Admiral Chen remained calm. Execute Phase 2. This was the moment Priya had prepared for. The Horizon Protocol wasn't just about disrupting quantum physics, it was about understanding the fundamental forces of the universe. As the energy ships approached Earth's fleet, a second set of generators activated. These created fields that altered the behavior of electromagnetic forces. The energy ships found their plasma weapons dispersing harmlessly, their containment fields fluctuating wildly. The Nexari had built a countermeasure to humanity's quantum warfare, but they hadn't expected humans to master manipulation of multiple fundamental forces. Direct hit on the shipyard's main reactor, Sophia announced. Chain reaction beginning. The battle for Vega Prime became a turning point in the war, not just because of the Nexari's losses, but because of what it represented. Humanity had taken its understanding of physics beyond mere technology. They had learned to reshape reality itself. In the aftermath, as Earth's fleet secured the sector, Priya received a transmission from a captured Nexari command center. It was a message left by their chief scientist, translated into English. We believed mastery of quantum science made us invincible. We never imagined a species would dare to change the laws of physics themselves. Perhaps we were not ready to be the shepherds of order after all. But victory had come at a cost. The power requirements of the Horizon Protocol had burned out most of the generators. Earth's fleet had won a crucial battle, but they couldn't yet repeat the feat on a larger scale. Admiral Chen met with Priya via hologram as the fleet began its return journey. How long to build more generators? A month, maybe two, she replied. But that's not what worries me. The Nexari will adapt again. They'll find ways to operate in multiple physics states. We need to think bigger. Bigger than changing the laws of physics? Chen asked with a raised eyebrow. Priya smiled. Much bigger. The Horizon Protocol proved we can alter reality in limited areas. But what if we could do more? What if we could change not just how physics works, but the very nature of space itself? As she spoke, her team was already working on the next phase, Project Genesis. The war had pushed humanity to revolutionize their understanding of the universe. Now they would take the next step, learning to reshape it. The Nexari had thought they were facing a primitive species playing with forces they didn't understand. Instead, they had awakened a civilization that was ready to rewrite the rules of existence itself. Fleet Admiral Nikolai Volkov stood on the bridge of the UES Prometheus, Earth's newest flagship, watching as the combined fleet of humanity assembled for what would be their final confrontation with the Nexari Dominion. The massive ship, built with technology that would have been theoretical just 2 years ago, represented everything humanity had learned during the war. Project Genesis is ready, Dr. Priya Patel's hologram reported from Earth. But sir, you should know the simulations suggest this will change everything, not just the war but our understanding of the universe itself. Volkov nodded gravely. The past month had seen the Nexari launch their most devastating offensive yet. Their ships now utilized multi-state existence, able to shift between quantum, energy, and even some completely alien forms of matter. They had adapted to every human strategy, every innovation. But humanity had one last card to play. All ships report ready, announced Captain Yuki Tanaka, his second in command. The Rangers have completed placing the Genesis nodes throughout the target sector. The plan was unprecedented in its scope. While the Horizon Protocol had allowed them to alter the laws of physics in small areas, Project Genesis would do something far more ambitious. It would create a pocket universe with laws of physics defined by humanity. Commander Akanjo's Rangers had spent weeks secretly positioning the Genesis nodes in a sphere around the Nexari's primary fleet base. Each node contained technology derived from everything humanity had learned about manipulating reality itself. The Nexari are detecting the node network, reported Dr. Hassan Malik from the science station. Multiple ships approaching at FTL speeds. Volkov opened a channel to the fleet. All vessels, battle positions, remember your training, everything we've learned, everything we've lost, it all comes down to this moment. The Nexari fleet emerged from FTL in a display of overwhelming force. Their ships, now able to exist in multiple states of reality simultaneously, were virtually invulnerable to conventional attacks. Their first volley demonstrated their newfound power, their weapons shifting between different forms of energy to bypass human defenses. But Volkov remained calm. Begin Genesis protocol. Across the sector, the nodes activated. Space itself began to twist and fold, not in the chaotic way of the quantum disruption fields, but in a carefully orchestrated pattern. The Nexari ships found themselves being drawn into what appeared to be a growing sphere of distorted space. They're attempting to escape, Tanaka reported. Their FTL drives are at maximum. They won't get far, Dr. Malik said with quiet confidence. The distortion field is propagating faster than their maximum speed. Inside the sphere, reality began to change. The laws of physics weren't just being altered, they were being rewritten according to human design. The Nexari's multi-state ships, designed to adapt to any natural physics, found themselves in a universe where their adaptations meant nothing. The Rangers' vessels, smaller and more maneuverable, darted through the chaos, their human crews instinctively adapting to the changing conditions. They had trained for this, had learned to think in ways that defied conventional physics. From the Nexari flagship came a transmission. The being that appeared on screen was different from any they had encountered before, not made of living metal or energy, but something in between. "What have you done?" the Nexari commander demanded. This is impossible." "No," Volkov replied calmly. "This is evolution. You tried to force the galaxy to follow your version of order. We showed you that true advancement comes from embracing chaos, from daring to imagine new possibilities." The battle that followed would be remembered for generations. The Nexari fought with everything they had, their ships trying desperately to adapt to the new physics. But in this pocket universe, humanity had the advantage. They had designed these laws of physics, had trained to fight in them. One by one, the mighty ships of the Nexari fleet fell silent. Not destroyed, that hadn't been the goal. Instead, they found themselves unable to function in a reality they couldn't comprehend. When it was over, when the last Nexari vessel had surrendered, Volkov received another transmission. This time it came from the Nexari High Command itself. "You have done the impossible," the High Commander said. "Not just in defeating us, but in showing us how limited our vision was. We sought to impose order on the galaxy. You showed us that true order comes from understanding chaos itself." The peace negotiations that followed would reshape the galaxy. The Nexari, humbled but not destroyed, agreed to recognize humanity not just as equals but as teachers. Their civilization had mastered quantum physics. Humanity had learned to master reality itself. In the years that followed, the Genesis Protocol would be refined and expanded. Humanity and the Nexari would work together to explore the possibilities it opened up. New forms of travel, of communication, of existence itself became possible. On the observation deck of the Prometheus, after the final treaty was signed, Volkov found himself standing with Captain Tanaka.